Welcome back to the Check-In with Dylan. This is part 2 of my conversation with Kaitlin Good. In part 1, Kaitlin shared the story of her 6 children, the loss of her twin daughters, pregnancy after loss, miscarriage, ectopic pregnancy, and the invisible layers of motherhood that so many people never see. In this second part, we go deeper into what happens after loss. What does support actually look like when someone's grieving? What does Mother's Day feel like when some of your children are here and some aren't? What happens when early loss is minimized, even though your body, your heart, and your life have all been impacted by it? Before we begin, I want to offer a gentle disclaimer again. In this episode, we talk openly about miscarriage, ectopic pregnancy, child loss, pregnancy after loss, medical trauma, grief, marriage after loss, and the physical and emotional realities of pregnancy loss. Please listen with care, pause if you need to, skip it if it's not the right time. It's okay to come back when you feel ready. In this episode, Kaitlin talks about invisible motherhood, bereaved Mother's Day, ambiguous loss, the shame that can come with miscarriage, and the parts of early pregnancy loss that women are often expected to handle quietly and alone. We also talk about how grief can affect a marriage, especially when two people are grieving the same loss in completely different ways. Kaitlin shares honestly about the distance, the misunderstanding, the support, and the communication it took for her and her husband to move through that pain together. And toward the end of the conversation, we talk about advocacy. Kaitlin shares how her losses have shaped the work she's doing now to support other women, improve maternal trauma resources, and help lost moms feel less alone. This episode is about grief, but it's also about being seen. It's about the kind of support that doesn't try to fix someone's pain, but refuses to let them carry it alone. Here is part 2 of my conversation with Kaitlin Good.
Okay, well, we just had a little technical issue and we can't remember where we were, so we're just gonna pick up. The only visible marker that you have to the common person at the grocery store, the coffee shop, is if you're with Delaney, right? And you said, oh, is this your first child? And so I was thinking, like, what if you had never had Delaney and people wouldn't naturally see that? Well, does that make you not a mom? No, but by society standards, no one would see that. And so I know you've alluded to that a little bit, and I just kind of want to hear more of your thoughts on that. And maybe you could talk about the Bereaved Mother's Day that's a week before. That you have mixed feelings about as well.
That's such a reality for so many women that have struggled with infertility and loss and then never getting to bring a baby home. Like that would be so cruel and so horrible. And just like the little like cherry on top is that society doesn't see everything you've been through because it is invisible, and you might have had losses that people don't want to acknowledge because it's uncomfortable. They're scared to make you sad. They don't want to like bring up your grief because they're uncomfortable around it. I think it comes down to being vulnerable, first of all, as a lost mom, to share your experience. Be open to sharing and talking about it so that people around you can show up and support you. And then don't be afraid to ask for what you need. Tell people, like,
Yes.
I need to be acknowledged. I would like to be acknowledged on Mother's Day. I want to celebrate my baby's birthdays. I want to celebrate my babies on Mother's Day. Whatever it may be, but it takes vulnerability and it takes you being willing to open up and share with the people around you. Obviously, you're not going to go in the coffee shop and be like, I'm a mother, even though you don't have kids here on earth with you. Like, that's not normal. But I think people in your circle deserve to know so that they have the opportunity to show up for you. And then a lot of times people don't know how to show up. So I think being able to share some ideas or some ways that they could support you is also huge. If you know someone that has been through a loss, like don't be scared to acknowledge and bring it up with them because maybe it's too uncomfortable for them to come to you and be open. But maybe if you're watching this and you know someone who's had a miscarriage or who's lost babies and doesn't have a baby on earth, maybe just send them a text on Mother's Day and just acknowledge, like, thinking about you today and your babies that you lost. Just acknowledging that it's not going to upset them. Like it really won't, because I promise you, like they've already thought about them. Like you're saying that in that text message is not going to like catch them off guard and make them start crying. Like, will it make them feel touched and possibly bring a tear to their eye? Yes. I think that's my biggest message is like, do not be afraid to reach out and just ask someone or bring it up in a gentle way. And I think it always comes back to giving that person an out. You don't have to respond, but, or I just want you to know that I'm thinking about you and I'll be honoring your babies today, and maybe like doing a random act of kindness or dropping off a coffee, just thinking about you today. Like it doesn't have to be like this grand, like, I know you're not like a mom on society standards. Like, I know you don't have a baby yet, but like, you don't need to even like say those words. Just the like thinking about you, drop off a card and a coffee or something
Yeah.
simple. Just don't be afraid to acknowledge that there's moms out there who are still loving their babies from afar and
Mhm.
they just don't have that like physical child here with them because it is excruciating. It's horrible to think about losing and then like never having someone to like love on and hug. That would be
Yeah.
really
It
hard.
really is simple things, simple little things. I always say, like, when my friends have the date of my dad's death in their calendar and they say, thinking about you today, it means
Mhm.
so much to me. It's been 21 years and I'm still surprised how many people still have it in their calendar. I just gave a talk about being seen and like small acts. And so it's just wild to me that you just said, like, that's how you want to be supported. So, yay.
Yeah, it does. It means so much when someone else remembers something that you've been
Yeah.
through and then acknowledges it because it's almost like they exist to me, but they don't exist to the world. So having someone else acknowledge like they're thinking about them is huge. It's so huge. And
Yeah.
something else that you asked me about was Bereaved Mother's Day, which is the weekend before actual Mother's Day. And I had mixed feelings about this as a lost mom, even after I lost the twins and when I was pregnant with Delaney at the time. But I just felt like, why do I need a separate Mother's Day? Like, why can't I just be celebrated with society, even though like
Mm.
my definition of motherhood didn't match society standards? It just felt like, okay, but like I still feel like a mother, like I still am a mother. I still have babies that I'm thinking about every day and that I'm loving and that I wish I could hold. So, like, why
Mhm.
can't I be celebrated with all the other moms in my life? I know for other people that have lost, like, they really cherish and love Bereaved Mother's Day, and that's totally fine. But for me, it kind of just felt like I was being pushed aside in society
Mm.
and it's like you don't belong on actual Mother's Day, but like we'll make this holiday for you. And I know that's probably not how a lot of people view it, but for me personally, I just want to be included as a mother on Mother's Day. And I think like it's okay for moms who've lost to include their babies and include their
Yeah.
experiences all in that one day. Mother's Day like includes all types of mothers. And I think that's where we need to kind of broaden our definition of what a mother is and really include and accept more stories surrounding Mother's Day.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love your passion for that. I mean, you're talking about ambiguous loss. So you lose something, but it's without the social recognition of it. And I don't know if if you felt a difference of how people responded to your first trimester loss versus losing the twins. And maybe that's like actually a good question to ask because a lot of times, like I said, 1 in 4 people miscarry. It can happen in the first trimester when no one else knows about it. So they don't have that social recognition. Do you feel like people responded to you differently after those two losses?
Absolutely. It's so different. Like when people can physically see your bump and they see your babies and you've been getting ultrasounds and you've been sharing with them, like there's a connection and a bond that grows with your babies that you're carrying that people can see and they're connecting with you throughout. But when it's so early and you haven't told very many people or like there's just not a lot of like connection, it's definitely different. Like there were still people that showed up for me. There were still people that like dropped off food and cards and but to a completely different extent. It was drastically different.
Do you think society also has like different standards for like the type of grief that you can have given how far along you are in pregnancy?
Absolutely. When it's earlier, I think a lot of people were like, it is not as bad.
Yeah.
Even I found myself saying that, like, "Oh, it wasn't as bad as that," which is true, it
Mm.
wasn't, but did it still hurt really bad? Was it still, like, life altering? Yes. I couldn't even try again for another 6 months because that's how much it tore me up. I didn't realize how much early loss impacts and affects so many aspects of a woman's life. Same thing, like, you're just expected to go through that and then show up to work. You don't get time off. You're like, "Okay, now go to work on
Right.
Monday," after you just went through a miscarriage and cramping and bleeding at home and losing your baby and grieving that.
Isn't the process for like first trimester losses pretty like I don't want to say gruesome, but like you have to do a lot of these things like by yourself at your house, right? As opposed
Yeah.
to if you're further along and you're in the hospital, it's almost like taken care of for you in a way.
Mhm.
But I had a friend that walked through a first trimester loss, and I didn't realize the extent, and she had to take like multiple medications because it didn't
Yes.
work full like all the way, and it was just this
Yeah.
long process.
Yeah. I know. I think people don't realize like what actually goes into it when your body doesn't naturally like recognize that you've lost, because then it turns into like a medical process, but it's a medical process that you're dealing with in your own house. You just are given a prescription for a drug and told like, okay, do XYZ. And then within a couple hours, you should start cramping. You can take Tylenol. And you're just like, okay, that's it. And then you're left at home bleeding, losing your
Hmm.
baby. And then a lot of times you're like sitting on the toilet because you're just expressing all of the contents of your uterus. And then it comes down
God.
to the like, now I have to flush the toilet. And I know that my baby's in
Oh,
there. And
I've never thought about that. That's awful.
yeah, like, it still makes me cry because it's just like, I couldn't do it. I
Really
had to call my
sad.
husband in. We said a prayer, then I made him do it because, like, I couldn't. Looking back, man, I wish I had been prepared to, like this sounds so, like, gory and gruesome and, like, gross, but, like, collect it, like,
Yeah.
actually, like, to, like, a burial or something. Have a proper goodbye instead of just, like, disposing like a goldfish, you know? It felt so inhumane. And I think that's the part of early loss that a lot of people don't even like think about. They're like, oh, you had a miscarriage, but they don't really realize that part of it and the goodbye that you get. And I think that's really what affected me so deeply is like, I don't want to do that again. And it was a fear
Yeah.
of like, I don't want that to happen again. Like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to go through that. So I'm just going to wait. And that's what made me wait so much longer because I just wasn't ready
Yeah.
emotionally to possibly have to deal with that again. And then it also turns into like, oh my gosh, like maybe there is something wrong with me. Like, why can't I stay pregnant? And then it turns into the shame that you start to feel of like embarrassment of people are going to be like, obviously something's wrong with you. Like, did anyone ever say that
Mm.
to me? No. But that is a thought that you start thinking of like, people are going to start judging, like, why is she even still trying? Why is she doing this? Like, obviously something's wrong. It's all mental,
Hmm.
it's all my own thing. And I know that it's not true. But I didn't experience that side of the grief with miscarriage after the twins because it just felt so like I held them, like they were there, they existed, they were like alive. But with the early losses that I had, it felt very much like, oh, like I don't even want to tell people, like I don't want to share this because it's like I felt the shame
Mm.
aspect that I didn't expect and I didn't experience before. I just remember like reading this miscarriage book and it was talking about like hiding. And I was like, I'm not hiding. That's crazy. But then after the early losses, I was like, okay, like this makes sense now. Like I get why people don't want to share because it feels like something's wrong with you. So
Mm.
I don't know how to like help other people through that other than like it's not true. Like that's obviously just your own voice in your head. Like people aren't truly thinking that. But I don't know if you have any advice to like get out of that shame cycle.
Well, with any shame cycle, challenging it, what I heard you do is I know this isn't true. This is just coming out of my grief. I don't want to assume like what you thought. Something was wrong. It wasn't good enough. And so therefore something was like defective. And then we starting to internalize that, but separating yourself from the shame spiral and almost like symbolizing it. Why do we feel grief? It's because we love. We can't
Hmm.
have grief without the deep caring and love. And so you might say, like, what's wrong with me? I know this isn't true. A, naming it. This is just my shame spiral. And then B, this comes from my grief. And I can't have grief without the love. And it shows
Hmm.
how much I pour into these daughters and care. And to see it almost as a strength. You have made so much meaning out of this. And this has created a passion in you to be like, I've been through this. I don't want other women to walk through this the way that I did, alone and confused. Like, I don't know, should we have some more care for women who are like going home to miscarry or like to alert them that they might have trouble flushing the toilet? And for some women, it might not mean that to them, and that's okay. But
Hmm.
this education piece of like caring for women who are going through this from like a medical perspective.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's so hard because everyone is so different and they grieve the loss so differently. So it's hard to say like there's a one size fits all, but
Right. There's
absolutely
not.
would it have been nice to like get a packet at my doctor's office talking about here's what's going to happen. And like, would it have been nice to have a couple more resources or a couple more perspectives of like, here's some things you could do to help you. Here's what might
Yeah.
happen. Here's what you could possibly do. Because yeah, like, did I think about like collecting the baby? Like, no, until it happened. There is this level of care that you get because like going through the second trimester loss, it's labor. Like I had contractions, I was in pain, I birthed babies, like, and then my milk
Mm.
came in after. And that's another thing like people don't realize, like you physically give your body to these babies that have now left and gone. Even the early loss, it's like you're still contracting and your cervix is opening and you're like basically birthing a baby, and maybe like way smaller. Your body gives so much. And I think that's the part of motherhood that is so hard that it's not acknowledged, is like, no, like I am a mother, like I gave so much of me and I loved so deeply. I don't know how it needs to change. I do know that there needs to be change, especially in the medical system, and going back for checkups, like having to sit in a room next to other pregnant people, like that's really hard. Like why are there OB offices that say text when you're here, and as soon as they're actually ready for you, like say, okay, come in, so you can just walk directly straight into your room and not have to sit in a waiting room next to people. Cause then there's small talk. And I remember after I lost the twins, they were like, oh, how many weeks are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm actually here for postpartum because I lost. And then you have to like re-explain what happened to some stranger sitting next to you. And then they feel bad because they're sitting there with like a
Mhm.
big belly and you're just like, yeah. So
Yeah.
there definitely needs to be some change. And that's something that I am passionate about. But that would be so simple for offices just to say, wait in your car, we'll text you when you can come in. Like that is not a hard thing to do.
That's a
Like
beautiful idea, and again, something I've never thought of.
I know my friend that went through a loss got to do that. She walked in at the very end of the day, no one else was in there. She had a great experience, completely different office than what I went to. They were obviously trauma informed. Like I think there needs to be a lot more trauma informed education for these
Mhm.
offices and the OBs that are taking care of you after.
Yeah. No, I
Mhm.
agree with that. And again, it kind of going back to the thing that we were talking about of like almost this minimization of, oh, it was a first trimester loss, as
Yeah.
opposed to the second trimester loss. You experience
Mhm.
both, but even from a medical perspective, like making sure that there's still a lot of care and concern and softness for the mom that's going through that. It's
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah. It's hard when there's no answers too. I think that's the hardest thing when it feels like we don't know, like it just happens and there's not really anything you can do.
You mean like you don't know why sometimes
From the
miscarriages just happen?
from the doctor's perspective, it's like I'm sitting in this room and they're telling me like, okay, here's what's going to happen. You're going to get these drugs. This is what you're going to do with them. This is what you can expect. And there's like just no answers. It's just like until you've had three, like we don't really do genetic testing. You don't get a reason. And I think that's really hard to
Mm.
accept. It's hard
Yeah.
to not have the knowledge and not know why. Because you're like, I
Yeah.
don't want to have to go through this a bunch more times. Like I just want like what should I do to fix this now so it doesn't
Yeah.
happen again?
Right, and then just the cycle of, like, pregnancy is just in general, as you know, you're living it right now, is just so exhausting.
Yeah.
To have gone through this 6 times, it just takes such a toll. How has this affected your marriage? And do you feel like you grieve differently than your husband?
Completely, 100%. It was really rough at the beginning, it truly was. I mean, within, like, the first month, very together, very supportive, very, like, cohesive as a team going through it, and then slowly it turned into I still had time off. I was still on, like, maternity leave, basically, because I had given birth and I had doctor's orders to, like, not go back to work. Um
Mm.
and so I was home, but he went back to work. I think it was after like a week or two. And then he would leave. And I just had this irrational fear of him dying after that. And then I
Yeah.
was just like terrified of him being gone. I hated being by myself. I couldn't be by myself. My mom would actually come over every day while he was at work so that I wouldn't have to be alone. She, like, somehow it just lined up. She got laid off. So she was jobless for a while during this time. And I think it was just like the biggest blessing looking back, the
Mm.
timing of it all. And like, I needed you and you had the availability to like be there for me during that time. And then she would leave and I'd have like an hour until I had to like wait for Tim to get home. And then it would start getting dark out. And the depression would start like creeping back in and the anxieties of like, I don't know, something about the sun setting, even like postpartum. Have you heard of the sunset scaries? Like when night's coming, it just like
Yes.
affects
The
moms
night
postpartum.
scaries. Yes.
That was
Yes.
happening to me after losing the twins, and I was just like, "What's happening?" I was so emotional, and your hormones are crazy because they were up here and then they just plateau on top of the grieving, and my body was still, like, producing milk thinking I had kids to take care of, and I didn't, so I was trying to stop that, and it was
Mhm.
so painful. The beginning phase of him physically seeing things, very supportive. But then slowly as like my body got better, he was like, "You just need to like go back to work. You just need to like go back to life. Just get over it." It felt like he was saying, "Just get over
Mhm.
it." When he was like,
Yeah.
"Just like you can't just sit here and be sad." But like I needed to sit there and be sad so that I could work my way
Mhm.
out of it. So that
Mm.
kind of started to cause us some separation of him trying to like force me back into life too soon. And there was a time, it was like late November. I felt like he was upset that I was still in such a dark place. And then I just remember telling him, like, I am still bleeding. Like every time I go pee, I see the proof of what I've lost. Like, how can I heal mentally if I'm still physically like bleeding and seeing the loss every time I go to the bathroom? And I think after I shared that with him, he was like, I get it. And
Mhm.
he kind of softened a little bit and backed off of trying to like force me to like just be busy and move on. Cause I think that was his
Mhm.
strategy and that worked for him. Like, go to work, just be busy, forget about it. And I think even now I can see that's his strategy for dealing with the stress. And he's like, just keep moving, keep going through it. And for me, like that doesn't work. Like, I need to sit, I need to journal, I need to talk to my therapist, I need to talk to my mom, I need to talk to my friends. Women and men are just so different. And I just wanted to like, like share, share, share. And it was a lot for him because he just
Mhm.
wanted to bottle it up. Luckily, had therapy and my aunt paid and still pays for me to go. It's like the biggest blessing.
Oh my
And
goodness.
that completely helped us, I think, mend and stay together, to be honest, because it is really hard on your relationship. And that's something that the outside world like doesn't really realize how much it can tear people apart.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing so honestly about that. I know it's hard to talk about the marriage aspect, but like it's such an important aspect of
Mhm.
A, how people handle grief differently, but B, if I think there's this teeter-totter too of like if you're more expressive with your grief and he's not, does he feel like he can't have grief?
Like he was trying to be strong for me, but then I felt like he didn't care. And I was like, do you even care? But he was
Yeah.
like being strong for me to get better. And then once I was starting to get better, then I saw him kind of fall apart because he was like holding his
Mhm.
breath, waiting for me to be okay. Yeah, it's really tricky. And I got this resource. I ordered a book online. It was like couples communication after a baby dies. It was very helpful because I read it and then I gave it to him and he read it and he like highlighted and underlined a bunch of parts in it. And then I went back and I reread like what he found helpful and true.
Mm.
And it really gave me an insight into like men are just so different in the way that their brains are working. It was very insightful and it actually
Yeah.
like it helped me understand him better because I was at a
Oh.
point where I was like, "You don't even like, do you not even care?" That's what
Yeah.
it felt like, and I know, like, that wasn't true, but that's how it felt when he was just so bottled up and didn't wanna, like, bring him up or talk
Mhm.
about it, so it was definitely
Yeah.
helpful to, like, go outside of myself and look for resources that truly, like, talked about it because not a lot
Yeah.
exist.
I am all for like, give me all the resources, like
Yeah,
the mom, the therapist, the friends, the community, like all these different places that you can be supported and how it is really important. Absolutely can be devastating on a marriage. And so communication and like reframing, you said, "Oh, I thought he didn't care." And in his mind, he's like, "I'm just trying to be strong for her," And
yeah.
so we miss messages all the time in relationships and how it's really important to go back and correct that and learn. I think that's beautiful how you guys have navigated through some of that. I don't know if I told you this, but we're connected through Carrie, and I remember her telling me about her friend who lost twin girls. I remember exactly where I was. I remember where she was, and I
Really?
was yes. And I
Wow.
was devastated. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was pregnant. I definitely was pregnant because then I got COVID when I was pregnant and I
Oh
was
my God, that
very
was probably
stressed
scary.
about it.
Yeah.
Yes, it's actually like it's weird. I was gonna bring this up, but now all of these other details are coming back to me. But I've thought about you, this random girl that I didn't know, and the loss of your twins so many times. And like I'm realizing that now I talked about it a lot to my doctors, and I was like,
Wow.
but my friend knows someone who lost babies and da da da
Yeah.
da. Actually, I'm getting like chills a little bit. It's just so meaningful to have something full circle where someone you didn't even know was being impacted by your story
Yeah.
in a way that while yes, I was very upset and emotional and sad and scared,
Yeah.
but I felt this connection across the country. I want you to tell a little bit about what you're doing and what you're wanting with your Instagram page too, like a little plug.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for sharing that with me. It's impactful to know what I went through. It helped you advocate for yourself. Cause I think that was also
Yes.
like my biggest lesson through all of these losses. You have to advocate for yourself. Going through the
Mhm.
ectopic, that experience taught me like you need to step up and out of your comfort zone. And like, I didn't want to bug the doctors, but I would get the blood test results before their office did. And I had a friend who is a PA and she's like, call them right now. And I was like, oh, okay.
Mhm.
Like, am I allowed to do that? And she's like, just call. And so I would call the office and say, hey, I got my blood test results. Here they are. Can the doctor look at it? And I didn't realize like how much you actually needed to advocate for yourself in these experiences. And if you've had a loss, like tell your doctor, I need my HCG checked and my progesterone checked early. Because if it's something so simple as a progesterone supplement, then you can stop your losses from happening and not have to go through 3 to get the support. Like, just ask. Like, I
Yeah,
think that's the biggest thing that I've learned is be your own advocate and say what you need and ask for what you want. Because man, it could really save you.
that's really
That
empowering.
yeah, it's something that you don't realize is so important until you've been through something traumatic and you don't want to bug your doctor, but they're there to help you.
Yeah,
And like you also need to be a part of that team and stand up for yourself and what you need help with and what you want. So that's like number one message, like advocate for yourself. I also have become a virtual assistant for this company called Maternal Trauma Support. And I absolutely love, love, love working for them. There's 2 therapists who created a directory of trauma informed providers in the maternal health landscape, OBs, therapists, and you can search your state for trauma informed providers so that when you show up to your
cool.
therapy appointment, you're not handed a grief laminated ladder. Like you actually get someone who can help you and can understand the trauma that you've been through and can be sensitive to that. On the same timeline, I also became a patient family partner through Mama's Voices. And it's an organization that takes lived experience like mothers, and I get to use my experience to shape hospital policies and like doctor offices, like give them input and use what I've been through to help change policies to see the patient's perspective. Because a lot of
Uh,
times that's missing.
that is so cool.
I'm so excited. I got chosen to be on a hospital policy co op meeting thing. And that's going to be a few times through the fall, a few times a month through the fall.
Mm,
So I'm really looking forward to that. After the ectopic loss, I really listened to that calling that I was feeling that I need to help other people through this. Like I said at the beginning, I just wanted to see someone that made it through and I wanted proof
yeah.
that I was going to be okay. So I repurposed my Instagram account and I started sharing about my losses and things that have helped me and things that are supportive and helpful for people that like know someone going through loss. So I'm forcing myself to put myself out there and share my story because I've gotten so many messages from women just saying, like, your vulnerability helped me. I was sitting in my doctor's office, heard that there was no heartbeat. And the first thing I did was I went to your account. I'm like, that is
Oh,
so impactful. And it's so encouraging to me to know, like, my voice does matter because I think that was my biggest insecurity of like, nobody wants to hear it. Like, this is a dark topic. Don't share.
mm,
I'm not sharing for the majority. Like, I'm sharing for that girl who's sitting in her bedroom crying after her doctor's appointment. I needed someone to like hold my hand through it and to see like, you're going to be okay. And so that's my goal with my Instagram account is to like prove and share that you're going to get through it and you're going to be all right.
I'm very moved by that. One of the favorite parts of my job is seeing people take some of the worst experiences and do something with it that has these ripple effects that positively affect so many other people. And I'm so happy that you did not listen to the shame spiral of, oh, no one wants to hear this, and that you're like, no, this is important, this matters, and you're honoring your daughters. As someone who's gone through grief since such a young age, we believed in symbolizing the grief, if that makes
Yeah.
sense, or celebrating. We always eat ice cream in celebration of my dad on the day he passed and his birthday, and we do these little things that he liked to do, or eat takeout pizza because he loved
Yeah.
takeout pizza and ice cream. And I thought that was like just everyone did that. And then when I'm in this line of work and I've walked with people who have gone through grief and they don't have anything like that, I just realized how important it is. And so I
Yeah.
really love that you're really intentional about that, is what I'm trying to say.
Thank you. Thank you. No, yeah, I love that. It's taking something so sad, but then trying to find the light.
Yeah. And I think it's a Brene Brown quote, vulnerability breeds vulnerability. So you being confident enough to be vulnerable is what is allowing these other women to feel seen. And that's what you said earlier too. Like, I just want to be seen. I want it to be acknowledged. And how impactful that can be for your grief and the closure, because you don't get the answers of why this happened, but you can say, okay, well, what am I going to do with this then? So I
Yeah.
don't know. It's really powerful.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me share my story.
Oh, I'm so glad. Shout out Carrie
Yes,
for
Carrie for
connecting
connecting
us.
us.
She's so sweet. And right when I started the podcast, she was like, you need to have Kaitlin on. And I looked at your page and, started following, got connected, and was like, oh my gosh, yes.
Yes.
I'm just really inspired by your work.
Thank you so much for listening to part 2 of my conversation with Kaitlin Good on the check-in. Kaitlin shared how much heavier grief can feel when it isn't acknowledged. And she reminded us that motherhood isn't only defined by the children the world can see. It's also carried in the body, in memory, in the dates that still matter, in the names that are still spoken, and in the love that continues long after loss. She also gave us such an important reminder that support doesn't have to be complicated. I've said this before. Sometimes it's literally just a text, a coffee, a card, remembering a date, saying a baby's name, saying, you don't have to respond, but I am thinking about you today. And for providers, workplaces, families, and friends, this conversation is a call to do better. Early loss is still loss, okay? We should never minimize it. And pregnancy after loss can hold both hope and intense fear. Medical care can be more trauma-informed, and women shouldn't have to advocate so hard to be treated with tenderness while they're already carrying so much. I'm also so grateful for Kaitlin's honesty about marriage after loss. Sometimes two people are grieving the same heartbreak in a completely different way. One person may need to talk, cry, process, and just sit in it. The other may try to stay busy, stay strong, and keep moving. But without communication, those differences can start to feel like disconnection, even when both people are hurting. But what feels so powerful about Kaitlin's story is that she's allowing her pain to become purpose. Not because loss needs to be turned into something beautiful in order for it to matter, but because her babies mattered. Her story matters. And now her voice is helping other women feel less alone. If this episode moved you, please share it with someone who may need it. Share it with a lost mom. Share it with someone navigating pregnancy after loss. Share it with a partner, friend, provider, or family member who wants to better understand how to show up. And if you're listening with your own invisible grief, I hope you hear this clearly. Your baby counts, your grief counts, your motherhood counts, and you are never forgotten. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time on the Check-In with Dylan.